That's right. All right. Uh, y'all see that? Y'all seen this? Need more orange juice in my body for this. Oh, if I had Sunny D, I would love that stuff. Cosplay as Solaire during some Sunny D roll around. That's what I call a good day. Anyways, oh, praise the sun all day, every day. Hold up, OBS is not recording. Um, somebody speak, real quick. OBS, why are you doing this? OBS.
Losing people.
There we go. It's coming through.
All right, cool.
All right, welcome to GSC. Um, Today, this is like a part 2 of what we went over 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we'll be implementing a song in FMOD Studio. So, 2 weeks ago on GSC, it was kind of chaotic. We covered some free DAW options, which I resent in resources. We made an adaptive track in FL Studio, and just for some participation, we asked for a genre. We got a horror game, and the scenario that we were doing was a build up to a jump scare. So some other stuff we went over is just building it in segments and having multiple parts that can be layered over top of each other and restructured in the middleware, which is what we'll be doing today. And piano sound go brr. All right, and this week on GSC, just for a quick overview, we're gonna be taking everything that we did in that time and just yeeting it straight into FMOD. So we'll be setting up the parameters that'll change the music in real time when you're playing this hypothetical game. We'll be dabbling a bit with modularity and randomness, and making it some adaptiveness to it, and we'll be prepping it for the oven known as GPC to very very carefully and graciously put it into the game, which doesn't technically exist, but Anthony will find a way. I'm sorry, I just smacked my mic. All right.
We'll do it.
Yeah. All right. So I know this says moving to FMOD Studio, but we're gonna be moving to FL Studio real quick, just to kind of jog the memories, because I also kind of forget what this sounds like. So we're just gonna go over real quick all these parts, and we'll just kind of hop back and forth between the two F blank studios. And yeah, we'll go from here. So
A mere smidgen of suggestion.
yes.
For people who would like to follow along, if you could somehow upload some of the audio files from this here track, so that like when you put them into Fmod, people can also follow along if they haven't done the first week.
Good idea, actually. Here. All right, speedrun time. Where's this thing called? Horror GSC. Here, I'll just make a quick folder. Let's call
Part of
this.
doing that, I'm gonna show my session for Friday. So this is especially for you, yeah, first years. You don't need to be interested in FMOD Studio to get this to or to come to this session on Friday. But basically, the aim is if you want sound in your game, you should come to the session on Friday. It's in the GPC Discord, and basically, we're going to be walking you through how to link a library, but also how to use the library that I made so that you can have FMOD core in your game so you can have sound. And if you want to go above and beyond, it also works for FMOD Studio. So there's that too. I've been trying to get it integrated into the first year framework, but that process has been slow. So yeah, the TLDR is come Friday. Um, you'll learn how to put sounds like this into your game. And if you don't, you know, have time to go into FMOD Studio in first year, which please put aside time to do that because it's a lot of fun. Um, you should definitely uh, at least use FMOD Core to put some sounds into your game because you can do some really cool stuff with Core, but you can also, if you don't have anything else, you can just slap your sounds in and it just works. So,
Do you have more to say, please?
uh,
Please keep
sure.
going.
I'm also going to be explaining how the library works. Um, so if again, like I know most people here aren't super interested in doing programming, but I think it's a valuable thing to understand how it works in the back end. And if you are interested, then props because you're gonna learn some stuff. Um, Again, valuable skills like linking library and actually understanding like how you might go about making one are things that will help you later down the line with uh second year and third year and whatnot. And for the people in third year right now, if we have time, I'll try and sneak in a little bit of explanation on how to work with FMOD in Unity. But that could also just be a separate Game Sound Club session. Um, in any case, I think Carter's ready. So,
I did. I couldn't just send it in Discord, so I popped it on our Google Drive. You should be able to download that just with the link. But it's got all the sounds I exported from here. Wave files are huge. Yeah. So even zipped up like that, it's gonna be big. So there you go. If you want to follow along. Oh, I just spammed it. That's yeah. It's just the one link. Any of them, yeah, all three of them are the same. So here, I'm gonna fix that. I'm just dumb. There we go. A bit more concise. Anyways, all right. Back to this. All that GPC nonsense out of the way. Uh,
ah,
I'm kidding.
excuse you.
Um, so as you can see here, we got a few different labels up here just for the different sections. We got discomfort, which would be like the sort of ambient thing. Not much tuition, which is kind of building that tension. Makes you get a little bit more spooked. There's a bit more tension, and then approaching the jump scare adds in the low strings and the high strings until eventually that happens, and then the stinger happens, which is the jump scare. So I'm just gonna go through, play it front to back. We'll listen to it, remind ourselves of the chaos that was live composing. So here it is. All right. I had no idea that it was crackly. Was it bad?
Wasn't too bad, but it was bearable.
Okay. Well, all right. um,
Yeah,
yeah, the clean.
I
Oh,
we were gonna add crackles to the thing, but then I think we just didn't. But then it's funny
yeah.
because the crackles came back for
Yeah.
revenge.
Uh, yeah, and it's funny because it's just on your end. I have no idea what it sounds like. Uh, so hopefully it sounds cool, but yikes. So we got all the patterns here. We got all the um different wave files. Got everything, and how we ended up last or ended off, capped off, whatever the word is. Last week is we selected all these, and I'm not sure if you can see this right click. Can you see this?
We can't see the context menus.
Oh, right. Here. All right. Screen one. All right. So I right click and I just hit render as audio clip, and then after tweaking a few settings, it just goes through all these, rendering all of them, and that puts them right in here in the directory, which is just my FL Studio projects. And here we got all the patterns, and there's the zip that I sent everyone. So we just got it in here. So with that all out of the way, I'm going to move this to the side and open up FMOD Studio. So that is, there we go. Here's just a clean empty project. I just opened that up for reference. But yeah, so what we're gonna want to do is let's save it and let's name it horror GSC, which is just what I called the other one. So I'm gonna save that. I know it looks like I just saved the project to the root folder, but the great thing about that is that it actually makes the whole directory for you. So let's start off by importing all the assets. So there's a couple ways of doing this. Like most programs, you can click and drag them all there, or you can click import assets there. And there's a third way. You can open up the audio bin, and that's just this, but in a floaty thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag them all there. And now they're in the directory. So anything I do with that, I just close it, but anything I do with those files, I could delete them, and boom, it's fine. They're all still here. So clicking through them, it does compress everything for you, which is amazing because otherwise it would be very, very beefy to put sounds in games. So how we're going to start off is let's just do a new 2D timeline, which is just the generic, audio tracks over time. It's the thing you've seen everywhere. It's the thing, well, it's like this. It's pretty much every single, where do you download FMOD? Good question.
I got it.
You got it? Okay. Anthony will supply a link. But yeah, it's free. FMOD Studio. It's great. It's very useful. So let's just make this event and name it music. And as you can see here, it's just empty. But it also, if you look over here, it says unassigned. What's that mean? You're probably thinking. So FMOD has these things called banks, which basically you load it in, and that contains all of the sound events for said bank, and then each event has the assets in it. So when you load a bank into memory, it loads all the events in. So let's say there's a music bank that would load in, or that you assign all of the music tracks to, or all the music events to, when you load the music bank into memory, that you could play any of the music right there. So one thing I'm working on doing this year is to kind of limit what's in the banks to what is immediately needed in each level. So like UI sound effects, those are always loaded in memory. The music for each level, all the enemy sounds and environmental level sounds, those are all in one bank. And that way it keeps it so that you're not loading, 400 sounds all the time. So it eases up on memory, which is great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a bank called music, just for the sake of this, because it's one event and that's it. So we're going to go in here, we're going to click assign to music. The other thing you're probably wondering about is the master bank. You're probably wondering what that is. It's basically just the reference point for all the banks. So when you make a different bank, there's usually just master and then the other one. Generally, you don't want to put things in the master bank, just because that's one of the ones that's always loaded in memory. And just for the sake of compartmentalization, I guess, it's just easier to have each thing in its own specific thing, or own specific bank, rather than having everything in master, because that is a very easy way to get it cluttered. So now time to actually start building the track in here and getting it all adaptive and stuff. So what I usually do when I'm doing this sort of thing is I remake the FL Studio project, but in FMOD. That way it starts with the same sound, and generally how I like to or how my workflow usually goes in FL Studio is building the song in a way so that it's easy to be implemented in FMOD. So I'm just going to open up FL Studio, put it on my second monitor, just so you see what I'm doing in FMOD. I will not be able to see the chat, so hopefully the other lads will be able to take care of it. But I'm just going to copy the whole thing. Pattern 9. Right, and right off the bat, I already missed something, which is fine, but what you're going to want to do for music specifically is add a tempo marker, especially if you're working in beats rather than time, because mine is, okay, so mine is 4/4-130, so I set this to 130, and each of these is a bar now. So super useful for like counting at beats, and yeah, saves a lot of time to do that. Another thing you're going to want to do is add destination markers. Don't let the name scare you, even if you're not jumping around and stuff, like even if it's just a straight through, like front to back piece, it's really useful to have just to mark the different areas of the piece or of the track. So one other thing we're going to do here is I'm going to hit async here. So that means that when it plays, you can't hear it, but as you can see there's this line on the timeline, which is just, it's just barreling right through the entire timeline. But this one, the smaller one, that one is kind of its own thing. So when it hits this right at the beginning, it'll trigger it, and it will play this as if it is however long it is, which is a really weird and convoluted way of saying this is like its own. This is as if it's normal length up to here. So it'll just play when you hit it, and regardless of how long it is, it will continue playing to the end. So it's really helpful for things with long reverb tails like this, and like some of the other ambient pieces that I have in here. So I'm just gonna keep going through ambience but better, and that is bar 5. I throw in pattern 10. And generally I like to throw asynchronous on everything that is everything that has a reverb tail, just to kind of even it out. And the only issue really is that I at least haven't found a way to automatically make it asynchronous when you bring it in. So rebuilding it is a bit of a pain when, like, whereas compared to FL Studio, you can just do the paintbrush tool or the draw tool to just kind of draw it along the piano roll. But here you need to either copy and paste it all or drag it, click asynchronous every single time. So it's a bit of a pain in that regard, but it works for what it does. All right, I'm gonna make this a bit bigger. Oh, not that. Okay. All right, so we got pattern 9, pattern 10, 10, 9, 10, 9, and that's where marker 2, not much, twin chin. All right. So just while I'm doing this, is there any questions about anything really that have been popping up?
Yeah, are you gonna post this after the session as well, like this
The
file?
project? Yeah, I can throw that up on there. Yeah. That is
Okay.
all right. So you see this here. This is one of the most irritating things about FMOD Studio. I have no idea why it does this, but as you can see, if we zoom in all the way in, they're flush with each other. There is no overlap at all, yet sometimes FMOD Studio just kind of thinks there is. So it's super frustrating when, like, see, I don't know why it's doing that. It doesn't look nice. It doesn't really affect anything at all in terms of playability. Like, it all plays fine. It's just frustrating to look at. So keep that in mind. If you see something like this, generally it's not your fault, especially if you make sure that everything is like a bar or 2 bars or just spaced out properly. It's just one of the kinks that have been in the system for years at this point from what I've seen. All right, let's go to a bit more tension. And then approaching the jump scare is coming up. Let's just do jump scare is JS. Okay, pattern 9, and then one more pattern 10, because why not? Okay. And then a couple bars later, let's throw in jump scare, and I'll put that in the right spot after. So we got all the markers down, we got the tempo down, we got the ambience better, or ambience but better track down. So now just gonna add another audio track and do the same thing, but for the next track on FL Studio. And there's also return tracks, which are basically a mixer. So if you want everything to route into the same return track that isn't master, that's how you would go about that. You would just make a return track, and then you would reroute into it's not there, but you would just reroute it like that. let's do this. And amb2b. I don't know why I called it that. And this one's thankfully pretty short, so just throwing that there. Slap the asynchronous on it. Make it spaced out to a bar. Asynchronous. Here we go. Oh yeah, and as you can see there, popped up for a second when I was going over them. This is basically just a fade out and a fade in. So that's what happens when you put or overlay two things on the same track in FMOD. It just automatically applies the fade out and fade in wherever the start and end points are of the overlap. So keep that in mind. This is why it's good to just always have a ton of different instrument tracks for everything. That way it just keeps everything spaced out, keeps everything the way you want it to be. And the last one is right before that, making sure there's no more. Cool. All right, let's make that smaller as well. Distorted ambience. That one is an audio track. Alright, it says there's two of them. I don't know where the second one is. So I'm just gonna do the one. Yeah, sorry, this isn't super engaging. This part of the process is kind of what's the word, tedious. But it's a good practice. At least I've found it to be a good practice, just to remake the project in FMOD. That way that either way you're looking at the same thing, and it's just easier to navigate in that sort of way. All right, so now we got the third ambient track, and other. Again, I was killing it with the names. Wow. All right, I consolidated it. Okay, so there's a couple things I could do here. I could throw down the whole track, which would be the entire thing of the render for all of these things combined, or I can do the other thing, which would be to insert all the patterns individually. So that would be like, okay, there's 1, 2, and then just basically remake this, but with this. The benefit of doing it this way is that, let's say you needed to skip, let's say you were at a bit more tension and you wanted to skip back to not much tension. The good thing about this one is that it would be fine because everything's already chopped up. But the bad way about this one is that if I set it to asynchronous, when it loops back around, it won't play again. So that's just one of the things you got to keep in mind. If I did it like this and I didn't set it to asynchronous, you can't hear it, but it is playing. If I jump back like that, it'll keep playing the track from the beginning. But obviously the issue there is when it goes from here, this spot right here, to clipping, or to back here, there'll be some clipping. So using small little patterns like this is generally a really good practice. I keep saying good practice, but yeah, generally keeping things smaller is much better when it comes to making them clip less and make them more modular. So I am very sorry, but I am going to do the long way just for the sake of it sounding moderately okay. All right.
In any case, while Carter's doing that, how's everybody doing? Is anybody following along? okay if you aren't. But this is being recorded, as we all know, so you can go back and watch it if you would like.
This call is being recorded. Beans. Okay, there we go. And that is amp other. No, let's delete that one. Cool. Alright, on to the next one. Like I said, very tedious. It takes a while, but the end result is most of the time when it's implemented properly and everything works, it sounds great. So it really does pay off. All right, let's throw in the low strings. And I just copy and paste it 4 times in FL Studio, so that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Cool. Low strings. One more, that's high strings.
And keep in mind that every little step that Carter is making here allows you to have more control when you're actually doing the programming in game.
Very good point. Yes.
So, if you don't need to have like 100% control, you don't need to go into a lot of detail. But if you want to, really make everything organized, then this is like the best way to do it. So that way you're not like messing around with playing different files and stuff. Specifically for music, this is the best way to do it. But if you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of layers to your music, then you don't have to be as strict.
All right. Yeah. Anthony brings up a very good point. If you're just doing something that is like, okay, one level, it just loops indefinitely, you definitely do not need to go into this much depth. You could literally just take a loop or take a couple loops from FL Studio, throw them in here, and it'll work. And if it works, it works. And that's the name of the game here. But if you do want something where, let's say you're approaching something, and as you get closer, it moves from, okay, the discomfort loop to a different loop. And as you get closer, it continues to progress. But let's say you back away from it, and it goes back here. The system I just mentioned where it's just a loop, that wouldn't account for that. But this, and going into like this much detail with, okay, we're going to set markers here, we're going to set transitions in a couple minutes, hopefully. That kind of depth really affords you the ability to make it super modular and make it kind of adapt, hence adaptive audio, to what is going on in the game. So just to cap it off, there's the last little bit, stinger. Right, I had an idea for this. So you could do this, but for the sake of showing off one other way to go about this kind of thing, I'm not going to do that. I am going to make another event and call that stinger. I keep saying stringer, but there we go. So you're probably wondering, hey, what the heck's he doing? I'm just putting a single wave file in this event. Why is he doing that? And he's leaving it unassigned. What's going on? This man's losing it. What I'm doing is I'm putting in a reference to that track. So this is a very, very great way of taking a sectioned off and partitioned part of the music or of whatever you want. Like, let's say I use that somewhere else. Like, let's say you click quit game and this plays. I could put that in music here, but I could also, let's say, have another thing like quit menu and I can reference it there as well. So the great thing about reference tracks is that you can just throw them everywhere. And yeah, it just plays the same thing every time. So even if I'm not in the track, it'll play it. It's basically just a little folder that's like, okay, we're going to play this. And the best part about that is that you can also throw parameters in there as well. And the reason I opened up the other project before is to show that this is exactly how I made music for the game jam over the weekend, if any of you guys participated. But I made all the music in different, all in different events. And I just kind of referenced them all in the big one so that anywhere really, it's all in one track. So I can change the volume here, but also let's say level 3 was a bit too loud, I can turn that down here, or if level 3, the transition was a bit too quiet, I could turn it up here, and that way it wouldn't affect anything else. And also that way I don't need to throw on a bunch of filters or any post effects or pre-effects. Everything is just simple. It's all in one track. I say simple, but there's lines everywhere, which we're going to get into. But yeah, it's really good for soundtracks. You could use it for sound effects, but less of a purpose. So yeah, I'm just going to throw the stinger there just for the sake of using this to show off for educational purposes. All right, so got the track built. If we hit play, it plays the exact same thing we hear in FL Studio. Cool. Now for the fun stuff. What we're going to want to do is we're going to add loops. So we're going to add a loop here. And we're just going to keep adding loops to every single section. So that way, when it hits a section, it'll just keep playing over and over again, which is what a loop does. The tense hold and the stinger, I will not put a loop over, because obviously you don't want the stinger to continue playing or just play over and over again when you're looking at a scary monster. So all the parts that need loops have loops. Cool. And now there's this, add trigger conditions. So if I add a condition here, that'll be, okay, if it fulfills the condition, it will not loop. So right now, if let's say I go here, it's going to go back to the beginning. Yeah, and even with this off, because that just loops the track when it gets to the end. So we want it to move on when tension level increases. So we're going to add a parameter here. Let's call it tension. And let's make it discrete. So continuous is a float, basically, between 0 and 1 usually, and discrete is an integer so that it's just a whole number. Labeled is basically the same thing as discrete, except you can put words on it to associate. So just for the sake of keeping this shorter than it would be otherwise, I'm just going to do discrete. Let's call it tension. And 0 to 10 is not what I wanted, so to edit it, I right click edit parameter. And there's the beginning part, the discomfort, there's the slight increase in tension, a bit more tension, and then increasing or approaching the jump scare, and then finally the jump scare. So that's a total of 5. So we're going to do 5, and it starts at 1. And you know what? Make the range 1 to 5. Scale. All right, so there we go. You just slap that on there, and now as you can see, it's on 1, so it'll loop. I think I said the opposite of that before, but it's fine. I'm showing a demonstration of it working the other way. So that's the important thing. So
Give the man a break. We've been non-stop since what, 5 with Gavin.
yeah, and my brain is very fried at the moment, but it's fine. Uh, so jumping back to this one, you're probably thinking, "Hey, why is there green lines everywhere? Why does it look like Ogreville over here? Like, did Shrek get into this?" As much as I wish that were the case, it's just a transition region. Transition regions are sick. They are so cool. They're very fancy. Yeah. So basically, it is a region in which you're capable of making a transition. So it's pretty cool. So you're probably thinking, hey, there's a line here right at the end, but over here you have like 14 trillion lines. That is because the quantization interval. So you can click on the bars. So that every bar or so, I'm going to do every 2 bars, just so it's the end of each phrase. You can transition to the next
Stream's
part.
gone, by the way.
What's gone?
Your stream's gone.
Oh, of course it is. Let's do that again. I have no idea why that happens. It only happens during these sessions, from what I found. Okay, it's only been like a minute.
You're good.
Okay, cool. Alright, so yeah, the great thing about transition regions is that when you hit quantize or quantization intervals, it'll add these cool looking green lines that make you look like you know what you're doing. But the great thing is that when you hit them, I didn't set it to do anything, but when you hit it, if it fulfills the transition requirements, it will transition. Whereas without it, it would just transition whenever, which is what the kids say, not very musical. So we want it to be musical. Let's keep it musical. High School Musical. We're going to add a destination, and we're going to make it not much twinching. So, and then we're going to add the transition, or the condition, and we're going to make that 2. So, it'll play, and then let's say it's 2, it skips to there. So that is a pro gamer moment. That is a very epic moment, and this is the entire basis for horizontal resequencing. Which is funny because it's fairly simple, but it's great. It's super simple to understand once you get the hang of it, but getting the hang of it can take a little while. It took me more than a little while, but we all get there eventually. So I'm just going to add a few transition regions. Actually, I'm going to take advantage of this. What you can do here is you can automatically set it so that you don't need to go into the menu and do that after. So I can just say, hey, I want this transition region to go to a bit more tension. So now it's already set that for me, which is great because I'm lazy. We're all lazy here. So I'm going to set that to 5 again. Same 2 bars. And I'm going to copy, paste. Copy and paste is your best friend when you're in FMOD Studio, just because it's very not great when it comes to certain things, like placing new things quickly, which is fine, but it's a little frustrating sometimes. So we got that. And let's just add one more transition region. Okay. Right, that was supposed to... Right, I'm remembering now. Okay. So I'm going to add a few more slots to that. That's... Okay, so that's 5. or 4, 5, 6. So let's make it 7. Scale. Right, and everything changed. So that's the issue with scaling stuff. It can change stuff for the worse sometimes, which is fine. You just need to be aware and be wary of it. All right, so let's add more. Let's just do A. Put that there. So the reason I'm doing this part is because the high strings, I want those to come in when you keep getting closer to the jump scare thing. So that way it, kind of builds up the tension a bit more. All right, so let's make the destination A. Let's make one more transition region. It's a short one. Transition to B. And one final one that goes to tense hold. And then that will just play this part in, in normal sequence. Ooh. Okay. So now we just gotta add the parameters to everything. We got it there, we got it there, we got it there. We don't got it there. So that one's 5. Da, da, da. This one's 6. And this one is 7. Cool. So let's just quickly go through it. Alright, cool. Tension 1 plays. It doesn't skip when it's still at tension 1. Let's skip to tension 2. It goes there. Skip to tension 3, let's see. Yep. And let's go to tension 4. Adds in the low strings. Let's go to tension 5. And tension 6. And now the final one. That wait is way too long. So I'm going to shorten that. But one thing I did notice is that one of the downsides about async is that when I got to B and I transitioned immediately, like right here to 7, it didn't cut everything off. So to do that, you either go asynchronous, make everything asynchronous, so that when you play it, it'll cut off at the end, with the downside being the reverb tails won't loop, which thankfully there is a workaround. I mentioned this in the previous session back in FL Studio, but when you're exporting, there is an option called wrap for the audio file, and that way it'll, as it says in the name, it'll wrap the reverb tail to the front. So this wouldn't be the case. It's fantastic for loops. It is really helpful. I didn't do that because I wasn't thinking by the end of the last session, but that is a great way to get around this. But for the time being, I'm just going to cut it off like that. Let's make that not asynchronous as well. So tension 6 is going to sound a little weird, but that's fine. And now here's the other fun part of horizontal resequencing. So you can go forward, you can skip ahead. Let's say I want to go here. Wow, no way, I'm here. But let's say I want to go back. That doesn't make it nice. That kind of breaks a few things. So it'll just loop there forever until it goes back to 2 and then continues. We don't want that, so what we're going to want to do, more transition regions. And this is what I meant when I said it's complicated only until you understand it, because pretty much everything's just loops and transition regions, to be completely honest. So once you get those two things down, horizontal resequencing is in the bag. You can call it yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Vertical adaptive audio is a little bit different. But honestly, you can achieve the same effect with horizontal resequencing. It's just throwing on more layers. So yeah, actually, for a good example, this part. So this part, right, we got the ambient but better playing. We got that pattern 9, pattern 10 sounding beat. We got that ambient 3 sounding beat. And we got the low strings 1 sounding beat. So we got that playing. But then we're like, okay, we got to build it up a bit more. Boom, high strings 1. Another layer that's vertical. So the two things are kind of interconnected. There are different ways that I could accomplish this. I could be like, okay, in this loop, increase the volume of this, or increase the volume of this one as the parameter goes up. So to do that, I would just go to add automation, add a curve, and make it coincide with tension, so that when the tension goes up, there'd be a curve like this. Since I don't really want to do that, and that's needless complexity for the sake of this showcase tutorial, whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to do it like this, because it works. So yeah, both great ways of doing vertical vertical layering and mixing. So adaptive audio, it's fun stuff. Okay, so back over here, making it so that it can go back. Basically, it's honestly as simple as just changing the region that it goes to, and it goes to discomfort, I think. Yeah. It's literally just the same as just change the region, change what the parameter is, and that's it. So, 1 second, I'm reading the thing. Make sure to put in those automations with the preceding and post layer. Yes, that. Read what he said. 100%. You know what? You're a meme. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Alright. Let's make this one go to not much tension. If I was doing this in like a bigger sense, I would probably have made the names significantly better. Like one way of doing it, like the one way I did it here, is I put level 1, level 2, like I put the level name as a prefix to all of these. You can't see it? Oh, I'm not streaming my window. I'm dumb. There we go. It's a lot to, yeah, it's a lot to cover. Just going back and forth and all that. But yeah, here, all of these, I would just prefix it with, okay, level 1, level 2. I'm doing the same thing with the zoo game thing that we're working on for G2W. Just do like, okay, section 1, or just a 1 at the beginning, and then the name of that specific part. So that's a significantly better way than being like, okay, discomfort, not much tension, bit more tension, approaching jump scare, because that's just like, that's not it. And that's the thing, whatever makes our workflow better in here is a plus. So gonna make that go to 3, and then the next one, I just hit Control B. Sure, let's just replace that. Body snatch it. It's all good. So this one goes to 4. It is very, very important to keep this in mind. And as well, because it's very easy to get kind of mixed up with, okay, which one's going where, especially when the markers are labeled this poorly. So yeah, always be careful about that. Always keep that in mind, because it's very easy to get kind of jumbled like that. All right. And there we go. Best part about doing it like this and having it quantized is that, let's say we're playing pattern 1, and let's say you somehow do speed run and get to number 3. It didn't work. Okay. Well, you go there. It's number 2. I don't know why that didn't do it. Right. Okay. So there is a way to make it so that when it hits the thing, and it's not right, you just invert it. Right. It is messing around with the inversions and the and or thing. The and or is particularly when you have multiple conditions, as you'd expect. But doing that kind of thing can really give you more mileage for the transitions. But yeah, there is a way so that when it hits the green line, let's say you went from 1 to 3, that it would hit that, and it would immediately hit the line that's right here, and it would be like, oh, okay, it's 3, we'll go to the next one. But since my brain is being the big tired, I don't 100% remember how to do that in a quick way, so it's fine. You're going to be going through each of these anyways, so as long as you're not going at like supersonic racing speed, it should be fine in the gameplay. But point is, let's say it's 2, we're looping here, we go to 3, it's fine. Let's say you go back to 2, kaboom, there you go. And let's say you want to go back to 1, there you go, there it is. Try making it 2 to 5 instead of 2 to 2. Probably. That's probably it. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So, right, that's the other thing. Depending on when you do it like this, depending on what the starting value is or what you have it set to, it can automatically just jump to whatever one there is. Obviously I just have this one, or the first one, set to 2 to 7, so it'll only jump to this one or 3, because it hits this green line right there, right at the beginning, and then this green line, and then this one. So if it just hits that one, and then it hits this one, it'll be like, okay, is it 2 or 3? If it's 2, it'll keep looping. If it's 3, it'll jump to here. But obviously, yeah. Yeah, what Daniel said in the chat is a bit more succinct. Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something, but yeah, those weren't used. You know what? Yeah, here, let's give it a listen. Here, I'm just gonna switch. So screens. Can't speak either. Wow. Once again. Thank you so much for bearing with me through this. I have a very small brain at the moment, but let's just give her a listen. Let's mess with this a bit, see how it plays, see how kind of okay it might sound, and yeah, from there we'll do the what happens when you're done stage. Alright, so I'm going to make that smaller, and I'm going to hit play and drink a lot of water. Hydration is key. Alright, so that part sounds kind of, how you say, horrible. But that's fine because it loops. Technically, it works. And that's what we're looking for here. Alright, we're gonna skip to the next part. Alright, skips ahead. I know it's gonna loop, but for the sake of just showing it, I'll let it play out. Cool, let's skip ahead. And here, let's just go backwards once just to triple check it works. Cool. And it's always good to stress test your projects like this before you put them in the game, because you have no idea what's gonna happen when it goes into the game. So making sure it's as leak proof as possible before it gets in is very important, to just kind of ensuring that it's solid, and that way it's not on you completely. Alright, and that was an example of asynchronous, just cutting it off, and it actually sounded significantly better than I thought it would. So there we go. And it looped to the beginning just because this was on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If I wanted to do something here, to kind of mix that up, I could add a scatterer, which actually I think I'm going to do, just for the sake of showing one more thing real quick. That's distorted amp. Okay, so scatterers are really nifty. They're really neat. They're really good for like ambient stuff. I am sharing. All right, recording started back up. As you can see, there's a scatterer right here. I'm gonna hit delete. We're gonna talk about that next time, or another time. So, as you can see, I have no idea where I left off, so I'm just gonna go over everything again, I guess. We got all the loops set, we got all the markers set, and we got all the transitions set. So realistically, wherever you are, whatever level this tension parameter is at, it will go somewhere you want it to go, eventually building to the stinger, which is what we want. So just to get it ready for the game, I'm just gonna hit save a few times because that's the gamer tradition. Super simple. All you gotta do is click build, and from there, I'm sharing my screen, right? So you can see this.
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. So from there, I'm just gonna go to FMOD Studio or GSE. Like I said, it built at the beginning. It builds a subdirectory for you. There it is. There's where all the assets are. And any folders you build in here, it'll go in the assets folder. So you click build, you go into desktop, and boom, we got the master bank. We got the master strings bank, which holds all the references to your other banks, and we got the music bank. So yeah, that's it for the FMOD stuff. But this is what you need next week for, or later this week.
This Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah.
My brain is even more jumbled than before. Oh my god.
It's okay.
Uh,
But yeah,
yeah.
we'll get those files uploaded if you couldn't follow along, just so that on Friday you have some stuff to use.
Yep. And I will be putting up the entire project, so if you wanted to see like all this stuff, it's there. If you want to mess with it, it's there for you. So
All right.
back to the slide shows. And yeah, I'll put that up in the next hour probably. All right. Thank you for coming out. Next week is gonna be vibes, straight vibes, many vibes. And we'll just kind of be chilling out, recommending music in the bot, listening to stuff, probably listening to a lot of memes. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be chill. Go to GPC on Friday, like Anthony said. He's gonna be running a session on uh, putting sounds in the game. If you want to talk about that a bit, because I'm not programmer man.
Yeah, as I've showed 5 million times, this session is basically going to be showing you how to put sound into your game with the library I made. And we're going to cover some other things too, like linking libraries into your C++ project, making your own libraries, and how the one I made actually works. But we're going to be covering mainly putting in sounds with FMOD Core in Studio, which I will explain the difference when the session happens. So if you're not interested in the programming stuff, don't worry. The first couple or the first part of the session is just strictly going to be get it into your game or whatever project you want, and then put sound in your game. Uh, the second part is for people who are interested in how the actual library is made and how to make your own, and how it all works. So yeah, definitely come to Friday. Come to GPC on Friday in the server at 5 p.m.
Listen
right
to
after
this.
game sound tutorial.
Listen to this man.
Also, Rob's gonna be there, so that's kind of cool.
Ooh, that is pretty
Or
cool.
at least he's gonna try to be there. So
And
yeah.
and scene.